Habari, and welcome to Swahili Nation, African Tradition, with your host Tanzan. Thank you for joining. And before we start, as we always do, we start with a prayer to the ancestors to guide the conversation, to be productive, to be insightful, enlightening, to share knowledge and information, and to receive it with grace. So, asante. Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, after we begin, we have officially begun. We have officially begun. So, we start with, the campaign, the ongoing campaign called Reimagining Africa. And that is part of Swahili Nation's, call to rethink, to reimagine, to remake Africa in our own image, to remake ourselves really in our own image, because it's not just an image that we're putting. We actually want to be those people that, we project. We don't want to put a false image of Africa. We actually want to live up to it. We actually want to be, the image that we project of Africa. So in terms of reimagining, it's not simply, painting, a pretty face. It's actually looking at the reality and then imagining reality in a different way. So it's shaping the image of Africa, just within ourselves, how we look at ourselves, and also shaping how we want to be, working towards that ideal. If this is who we want to be seen, not always as the faces of this or that, then we have to create those faces that we want to see, and we have to be those people that we want to see. So when it comes to reimagining Africa, this is what it means. It means that we have to think of ourselves as who we are and what we want to be. So
the lie began from the very beginning of time, right? And I can ask you one question right now. What does history tell you about Africa? Who discovered Africa? If you write right now on Google who discovered Africa, you find out that is one white man, that he came and discovered Africa. And you can ask yourself that how can you discover a place that already exists? How can you discover a place that people already live in that place? It is impossible, but that's what the history tells us. That's what people believe about Africa, that it was discovered by a white man. This guy, he came, and then he went back, he gave a report, and then the next we know is colonialism, because those guys, they sat somewhere to divide Africa like a piece of cake, because they discovered it, they own it, it belonged to them. But that is us. We discovered, we're the first people to know. And today you have a lot of people around the world that they think that Africa was discovered by them.
all right, so that is Reimagining Africa. Oh, wow. We have an early riser. Amani Ndugu podcast. It's good to have you in the house, Amani. Karibu is welcome. Very good to have you. So today we're talking about Africa. Why Africa? It's actually from a video. I'm not as creative as to say I came up with it. It's called "Why Africa is the a useless container," and it's from an old video from SNN. They didn't credit the person, but I'll see if I can find out the name. But let me go ahead and play it, and then I'll we can discuss it further. So yes. Oh yes, so I should do the proper thing, share all of that stuff. Oh, hey, it's early. The time now, as the radio people used to say, is 3:21 right now. It's early. It's early morning. It's that time when people should be asleep, but here we are, wondering why Africa is poor. So yes, let us see why. I will play the video. Let me know too, because I don't have too much experience with this video playing stuff. So let me know if you can hear it. If you can hear, a 1 for yes, you can hear, 2 for no. All right, let's go.
They realized that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering for the sake of creating good employees who don't think, but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learned useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yeah.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge.
Right.
That is why today we have doctors, we have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University.
Yeah.
We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. Okay. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable.
Right.
So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production.
Okay, so I hope that was, you could hear that. That was loud enough. So yes, Ndugu Focus says 1 for yes. So thank you for that. So let me first start by doing the African thing and greeting everyone. Habari and welcome is karibu. So I should say habari and karibu. So habari is hello and welcome. Asante sana for joining. Thank you for joining. We should know that by now. Yes, Amani Ndugu Focused. Yes, the Focused Radio was the first one here. Much appreciated, Focused, because I know it's probably as early for you as it is for me. So, okay, no, maybe not as early, but it's early enough. It's morning. So I appreciate you waking up to Swahili Nation. And yes, so as you have had, it's mzuri sana. Good. You see? Yeah, we will make Kiswahili the next big language. Kiswahili might just overtake English one of these days. You'll find people speaking Kiswahili in the streets, and you'll be looking around like, "Hey, what's going on?" And you're like, "Yeah, well, don't worry about it." So, well, I know that in the spirit of reimagining Africa, sometimes we don't want to hear, the negative and so on. We don't want to hear why Africa is poor. Why do we have to always dwell on these things? But it's not so much with a spirit of pessimism as one of realism, because it's not to say that the African is dumb. It's not to say that the African lacks knowledge or that the African is not capable of, doing a lot and achieving great milestones despite many obstacles. That's not what he's saying. And I really should go and see, give the credit. It's not right for me to quote without credit. Don't quote without credit. That's just okay. I will find out. Once I do, I promise I will let you all know. But sorry. So what he was saying was that it's the point of the clip was not for him to say, we Africans are not able to, think for ourselves. We're not able to, take knowledge in. It's just that we learn, like he said, only to remember. We learn, and I know this because that's what we were taught. We were simply taught a lot of information, like the stuff that people complain about learning here. This is nothing. Every African knows that our workload, our schoolwork was intense. It was massive. You were learning everything from, okay, you had the basics. Everyone knows you had the basic. You had mathematics, the number one subject, and then you had, the languages. You had English, you had Kiswahili. And then within English and Kiswahili, you both had, the vocabulary, the grammar, and then you had to write composition, which here they call essays. And then the same thing in Kiswahili, you had to learn the vocabulary, the proverbs, medali. You had to learn, the sayings. Those are the medallies. You had to learn. So all these things. And on top of that, you had to learn to express yourself, which, you'd write the insha, which are the same thing, composition or essays in English. So that's the first thing. You're learning mathematics, English, Kiswahili. Then you're learning, we were taught, which was the other, not so lesser subjects, but GHC. GHC was a combination of geography, history, and civics. And then, later on, geography was combined into science, biology, and so on. So, well, in primary school, you're not getting biology just yet. But on top of that, you're also learning, history was only part of it. We learned music, not like real music, just remembering and cramming all the different, instruments that every single tribe had. History was knowing everything about everything, from, like he said, from archaeology, you had to learn all the different phases of humanity, from Homo habilis, Homo erectus. No, it started with Australopithecus, bonsai or something, Australopithecus, there was two of them. Then it came to the homos, then it came to, mankind, then the migrations, then just a lot of information, just too much information. So amidst all of that, you can never really know what is important and what is not. And then, on, civics, learning the laws of the land and so on, and rules and regulation. Then agriculture was pretty much everything from crop rotation to animal husbandry to, fertilizers and things like that. You had to cram, just music theory. No, we didn't do too much music theory, but we did have to learn home science. Yes, we also did home science. So, that was good though. You learned useful skills like sewing and things like that. So that was good. So there was home science. What other subjects did we learn? Yeah, a lot of things. And then when you went to high school, then you learned the commerce, you learned, physics, chemistry, and you had to take all three for the first 2 years, and then you maybe could drop one of the sciences. So that was our curriculum as as African students. And like you said, you're simply just remembering. That was all that you're doing. You go, you listen to your teacher talk for hours, like I'm doing right now. The irony. But in any case, so you listen to someone talk, you take notes, but the difference is that there's no test at the end of it. That's a good thing. But you listen to someone talk, and then your teacher talk, you take notes, you get tested at the end of the term or whatever in different subjects, and there's no point to it all. It's just to pass exams and to pass class and move on to the next class, with the eventual aim of getting a job, a good job, and so on. But in that instance, it's simply to pass and get passed, to pass the test and then get passed on. So there was no really, when children ask, why do I need to learn this? There should be a reason why, even if you don't explain it to a child, you should attempt to give them a reason. You learn mathematics so it can help you, count your pennies, or it can help you, do things. You should just give a simple answer to why, and also ask yourself, why do you learn what you learn? Because at this point, we are filled with knowledge. If you go to any African city, people know a lot. They know about what's going on in their countries, maybe not so much in other, African countries, but they know what's going on, in the West. They follow politics. They follow, European soccer leagues and so on. They know, who's up and down and all these things. And they know so much. They know, history, and they know all this stuff. But all that is not really helping us. And we have a very, educated population as well. There's young people who are out of school, that they have experience, they have knowledge, they're also exposed to the outside world, especially, when it comes to technologically. So it's not that, we are stuck in some, some time loop, but even with all that production, there's a lot of, engineers, there's a lot of intelligent people. And for all that human mental resource, somehow we still have to get other people to do business for us, to do technology for us, to build our roads. For a big part of it, not all of it. We do still have African excellence and so on. But the fact that we still rely on other people to do things that we should ideally be able to do and have the capacity to do, that also shows that we're not really putting that knowledge that we have into application. So even if it's good knowledge, even if it's true knowledge, even if it's something that is correct and great, the fact that you're not using it to to better not just yourself but your community or your people as a whole, says that knowledge is useless for you. If all you do is learn and regurgitate knowledge, then that means that it's good knowledge. It's good to know, but it's not really useful. Knowledge should be applied towards something. Knowledge should be something that goes beyond just taking it in and mulling over it and meditating and looking at it and turning it over. You're supposed to take it and do something with it. Otherwise, it's nice and theoretical and all that. Amani, Regmon music. I will not make them. It's Ndugu. Say Ndugu, Regu. Yeah, sorry. I have to take a moment to do the African thing. So good to have you. Good to have you in the house. Forecast was the first one, and the good forecast was the first. But I am grateful and happy that you're here as well. So, just to catch up, I know it takes, a few minutes for people to come in. That's okay. We are African after all. So we're talking about the container, the container of useless knowledge, which yes, Amani Sana Ndugu. So the container of useless knowledge, which is the African. The African is not, devoid of knowledge and information. The African actually has a lot of it. The African is full of, knowledge and information. But what he's lacking is just a few things. And that is the application of the said knowledge. So
they realize that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering.
Sorry, let me just interrupt there for a second. And that's very important. Promoted thinking, remembering, not thinking. That's what they do in schools. It's called cramming. Cram, cram, cram. That's what we do in African schools. We cram, we take in knowledge, we go read. Okay, it starts with the classroom. The teacher stands in front, just sits talking, and occasionally pointing at somebody to answer something. And it's not to answer that, it's just to put you on the spot and make you, either show off your knowledge or show off your ignorance. So there you go. You're taking notes and listening in class. Then later on, you go get a book and then you read it, you take more notes, and then you prepare for a test. The test comes. You're supposed to remember everything that you read, put it in the information, slots, and then get, graded for it. Marked. We call it marked. The teacher marks the papers. Here they call it grading the papers. But yeah, they put marks on the paper. They take their red pen out and they just, go crazy. But that's, the educational experience, and it goes for all the different subjects that you're doing, that you have to cram all this different information where you're not using it for application. You're just using it to show off how well you can take in and, regurgitate it, almost vomit it out. So that's the educational model that is followed in Africa. So continuing.
Say that again. They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learned useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yeah.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis.
Now, just, to say something about that, I wouldn't say that everything that we learned was, useless or without merit. I would say that they mixed in all, the important with the trivial, the great and the small. Everything was given an equal, basis and standing, except for mathematics and English and the languages maybe. But everything else was given this equal, hierarchical but equal basis, whereas you didn't know the importance. I think what was missing was not so much the amount. Well, the amount was excessive, I have to say. I think it was the lack of context, the lack of application, and just mixing in everything. So you're learning about, oh yes, and we also did CRE, which was Christian religious. Well, it was religious education. So whichever religion you are in, you're going to do, you're going to learn about it. So there was a lot of information just mixed in: science, religion, civics, history, mathematics, all of those things, and you had to be good at everything. So there was nothing that was really important, and everything was equally, just there for remembering. And I think that was the lack of where we lacked, is that we did not place the knowledge. For example, if we're learning about, the history, we're not learning the importance of it. We're not learning the importance of, the struggles and so on, and what it meant in the larger context. We're just cramming facts. This happened in this year and that year and so on. So there wasn't any, moral to the message, or any priority to the knowledge. So yeah, let's continue.
You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge. Right. That is why today we have doctors, we have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay?
So, in the medical field where you're supposed to be, and this goes for everything. This goes for medicine, it goes for STEM, it goes for artists, it goes for music, it goes for all these areas that people, go to school to acquire education. Even in social work, do sociologists or social workers, all these people, do they really, put the education into use to help, a society, or are they just, ticking off marks and just, doing their job? So if all that education was just to, to be good at paperwork and red tape and so on, you're not really applying anything, you're not innovating anything, you're not, going beyond the mold, you're simply just becoming a true cog in the machine. So a cog does not think, it merely acts as it's programmed. And so you have all these people who have, instead of education or knowledge and wisdom, giving them the ability to go beyond, to take the knowledge and go beyond that, they simply use it to do what they have always done, which is to regurgitate it. Because in education, it doesn't foster that creativity. It doesn't foster, people thinking beyond, what they're told. It doesn't foster people looking beyond and within. So it's basically just going through a circle, but not going outside of it. So that's what we do. We just simply take in and we don't really put anything on top of it.
You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University. We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree. Okay? So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable. So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do?
That's also important to remember. We became comfortable. There is a danger in becoming too comfortable, because you begin to accept, things that you might have not accepted before. You begin to, put up with certain, maybe, inconveniences. You can still be comfortable, but you can be inconvenienced, you can be unhappy, you can be all that stuff, you can be discontent, but you're somehow still comfortable because, you have almost given up one thing for another. There is something to be said for peace of mind. Peace of mind is good. You should always want to seek that, But sometimes contentment comes at the price of, you know, of innovation, of thinking, of doing for yourself, of going beyond. So when people become content, they, you know, when they say necessity is the mother of invention, you know, there's some truth to that, because when you really need something, when you have to get something, especially when it's a survival or a life and death situation, then you will put all your energy and all your thoughts towards getting it. But when you feel, oh, you know, things are okay, you know, we can survive, things, you know, the future will be taken care of and all that, you don't find that need to do more. So when people become content, when Africans became content with the system, we became content with simply being, you know, employees, laborers, workers, all this, which there's nothing wrong with workers working. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But in order for you to work, there has to be somebody who has that idea and puts it into practice, and has, you know, a thought beyond just, you know, oh, let's go and do the same thing over and over again. Somebody had to start something from the beginning for other people to come in and do that. So if everybody is a worker, nobody becomes an employer, nobody becomes an innovator. We all, you know, standing with our hearts, you know, open, like, hey, you know, or our what do you say, with our palms open, yeah, asking, and nobody is giving. So if you don't teach people how to not just be good employees, but how to be, you know, good employers, how to be good business people, how to be good leaders, not just followers, how to be, you know, good entrepreneurs, large scale farmer, or maybe not large scale, but farmers. If you don't teach people how to feed themselves and do the basic things, then you're going to make them rely on you. And if there's anybody who's, you know, doing something, then that's the person that they're going to flock to. So unfortunately, we have created a system of dependency where we know a lot, but we're almost helpless to do it. We're like somebody who's paralyzed, but they have a lot of knowledge and information. So Africans are not, you know, lacking in knowledge. It's just that we have put them in vessels that are not willing to do the work of thinking, the work of thinking beyond, because it's easy to just do, you know, what has been told. It's easy to follow the same protocol, easy to follow the same rules and regulation, but somebody had to sit down and write down those rules and regulations. Somebody, or not somebody, actually, most of the time it's a committee or a group of people had to sit down and do that. So for you to even follow the rules, somebody had to make them. And, you know, a lot of us, some of us are not willing to make those rules. Okay, well, that was, you know, that was the you know, the thought for the day. That was the you know, the issue, the concern for the day, that why is Africa poor? This is a previous video from SNN, but I thought it was very prescient at this time, because we always ask ourselves, why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? And when we look at a lot of our people, you don't see, well, some of our people, you know, disappoint, but a lot of them also show such, you know, innovation and progress. And this is not just in the present, but even historically, we know of a lot of people who, you know, showed outward bravery, you know, intellect, innovation, and all this. But it seems to rise up, and sometimes it rises up in a group, and yet we don't sustain it. We can't do it. We don't do it as a people. We have the ingredients, and yet we're not putting them together. We're not working to you know, make that cake or build that house, or whatever analogy you wish to use. But all those things, we have it in us. We have people who, you know, even in, you know, African countries, we have, you know, engineers, we have, you know, doctors, we have lawyers, we have, you know, young, intelligent people with great ideas. yeah, all of that is not missing from the continent and from outside of the continent. You find, that artistic drive, and there is collaboration between, different people. So we have shown that we can work together. We have shown that we are excellent when we want to be. We have shown that in terms of, artistic creativity, especially when it comes to the arts and so on. But not just that, every so often, and sometimes maybe we don't talk about it as much as we should, but every so often you hear, this brilliant, child who has achieved exceptionally, and who's, the latest one was that 13-year-old girl who was admitted to medical school. So there's all these examples. And so as individual people, we're not lacking in the talents, we're not lacking in what it takes to be great. It's just as a group, we're not applying it. We're not putting it into practice as much as we should. Not that we're not doing it. I would hate to, put down a lot of the efforts that many people have done. But as a group, we're not where we need to be, because most of the time we have just, wasted some of that knowledge that our young people had, in terms of even that, idea of sitting in a classroom for hours and hours just taking in information. What other methods can we use to train and educate, the next group of people? What can we do to get them to be more innovative, more creative, and more willing to, work towards their problems, their local problems, not look out to the world and say, oh, can somebody help us? Like they used to say, that's clip, Serikali's idea. It was a clip of this lady who it was tragic, and then comic, and then it was tragic, and then it was comic, and then it was good. So it turned out well. So this lady, her homestead, her village had been flooded by water, and apparently, so she was in dire straits, and she was appealing to the government, which is Serikali, to help her. Serikali's ideas. So she said Serikali's idea, and people sort of made a meme out of her and so on. But eventually, somebody stepped in, and she got some help and so on. So that turned out well for her. But this whole idea of always looking towards somebody to help you, we should start thinking of how we can, not just help ourselves, but train ourselves to solve our own problems and to look at own problems. Sometimes we're too focused on, outside issues and getting into things that maybe, don't really concern us that much. You see sometimes, people, especially when it comes to this, like this football thing, like, okay, fine, you're a fan of this football, but some people act like, it's their team. It's like, their team won in the English league or German league or whatever league, No, they don't. They're not thinking about you. You should be thinking about yourself. You should be, if you like that sport so much, go support your local team. But, what's the point of being a European leagues funding? They're not going to come and play in your city. In any case, so as a people, we're still looking outwards towards other people for help, for solutions, for inspiration, innovation, and all this, instead of first either emulating them, in their areas of success, if that's what it takes, But in terms of us looking at ourselves, let's look at how that information is going to be used towards our benefit. Why are we learning all these things? Why are we taking all this information? Why are we so, caught up in this global politics, and we're not really focusing on some of the things that are more important to us? Although, I do give African leaders kudos and credit for dodging some of those questions that nowadays they're getting more politically suave. I have to say that, they don't embarrass us, internationally. They don't, trip over their words. So in terms of our image politically, I think we have gotten a little bit more sophisticated, just looking at I know that's just my opinion, but maybe it's a biased one. So in any case, our image, we are in charge of our image, not just politically, not just artistically. And that's also something else too, even in terms of art, even in terms of, the music and so on. If we are, representing ourselves, we also have to be thinking about how we represent ourselves, musically, how we represent ourselves artistically, in movies and so on. And that's one thing that we can take control. We can take control of how we tell our stories, what we say of ourselves, instead of letting other people, speak for us. And a lot of the times when you see these, helpful, charity people come in, to places, they treat, the locals with this certain, we're coming here to help you and you should be grateful and so on and so forth. But rarely do you see, an African being asked what they really think or their needs. It's like somebody already knows what you want and they're going to give it to you, and you're not allowed to ask any questions. So the way we treat children and just put them in a corner and expect them to, what is it? The children are there to be seen, not heard. Yeah, it's the same way that, we Africans are there to be seen and not heard. And then even when we're simply seen in somebody's, image of us. They have to recreate how they see us in terms that make them comfortable, while we are comfortable just being, unseen. So this is also why it's important, not just for the people who are in the STEM, in the sciences and so on, to be able to apply their knowledge, to be able to apply their ingenuity in solving local problems, not just in, building skyscrapers, which is, all that wonderful and great, but you're supposed to be able to solve, the problems of the people, in the villages. You're supposed to be able to solve transportation problems. You're supposed to be looking into, the environment and how to make it, more, more useful to the people and so on. So that's the sort of thing that you're supposed to be working towards, or making tools and instruments that are, are all terrain, or can be used in remote areas as well as in the cities. So these are the things that you would think that, all this educated African class, and we do have a great educated class where, there's the universities are every day graduating lots and lots of men and women, intelligent men and women. You go to a city, a big city in Africa, you'll find a lot of graduates, a lot of, very intelligent, educated people. So all these people, all that information, all that knowledge, all that experience, what are we doing with it? How are we using it to improve ourselves? How are we using it to build a better future? If we're simply, graduating young people to look for jobs, or to wait for the next handout, or to hope for something better, or to hope to get into, some kind of, good luck, something, then, you're simply giving false hope. If you cannot give employment to your educated class, then the value of that education is very limited. It's good to know things, it's good to be, knowledgeable and so on, but one of the reasons why you go to school is to, firstly, to apply the knowledge and also to make a living out of it. So if African countries cannot provide that for their people, then it's no wonder we see, so many young people trying to flee their countries, so many people trying to, find jobs elsewhere, or just trying to work the system, or try to get as much as they could out of it, because, what's the other alternative? There is no, social net. There is no, there's somebody to hold your hand. So basically, people have to, to resort to very desperate means to survive. So as we, African people, Black people all around the world, we should think of what is our knowledge good for. What good is it to know, to study, to know all this history, and even not just in the education system, but in our lives in general. What good is it to know all this information, all this stuff, and to be up on your history, your science, your technology, your all of that stuff, and we're still in the same position, So while truth is a good thing, sometimes we also have to learn to question its efficacy. We have to know that there are limits to knowing things. There are times when you have to stop learning, and not stop learning. You should never stop learning. No, you should know how to combine your knowledge, your information, your passion, your skills, all of that. You're supposed to be able to combine it into something useful and productive, something that gives back, because you have received it from other people. We have all received the fruits of someone else's labor, whether it's information, whether it's wisdom, whether it's even biologically. We're all here because we are the fruit of somebody else's labor. So yeah, and it would be selfish for us to simply say, well, all we can do is take, just keep accumulating the knowledge and not be able to do something with it. So it's a call for our people. It's a call for ourselves. It's a call for us as in the future, that let's not just be recipients. Let's also be creators. Let's also be give something back. We can't just, when we talk about people who are greedy, who simply are misers, how do you call them, the Scrooge and so on, those are people who are greedy materially. They want to accumulate as much gold or money or large zeros behind the bank accounts as possible. And there's nothing wrong with being comfortable materially, nothing wrong with making money and taking care of yourself, nothing wrong with that at all. But it's just that that unsatisfied greed for accumulation that makes them be pitiable characters, because that's all they know. A Scrooge just knows how to accumulate and never does anything. The joy of it is just increasing their store of gold, not in sharing it, not with making something of it, not with enjoying it. Just the fact that, oh, now I have more today than I had yesterday. That's all. Not what am I going to do with all this money, and you can't take it with you. So the same way with oh, good morning. Good morning, everyone. So the same way with knowledge and information, we can be misers and intellectual Scrooge McDucks, just taking it all in, taking it, and not doing anything with it, not giving anything back, just being intellectual misers. Okay. Oh, well, good morning, well, whatever time you're in. Habari, Maria Internet is here. I'm always surprised when people join me at this time. I always just expect to be talking to myself for hours on end and just saying, okay, well, I'll catch you later. And Habari, the architect, is here as well. Good to have you in the house. And so for the people who, I guess I'll wait for the architect to to get back, and I'll play the video. That's what happens when people have to catch up. So I'll play the video in a little bit. It was called The Container of Useless Knowledge. That's that was where that came from. So no, it wasn't me just being creative. I wish I was, but hey, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm just here to drive the car. So yeah, so we had Andrigo Focused in the house. We had Regmon Music. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, that one. Regmon. You have to remember that it's an M, not an N in the first. So Regmon Music. It's one of those. And then Sister Maria Internet came in. Good to have you. Good to have you. And all right. And of course, Rick the architect was here. So good to have you all in the house. So, we're talking about the use of knowledge. Knowledge, like everything else, has to justify its existence, its pursuit, and, its continuous pursuit. Everything good is good in moderation. And when he was talking about earlier, I'll play it again later, he was talking about the theory versus the practice. And sometimes the people say that, well, maybe Africans were not as intellectual as other people because we didn't always leave records, written records of our, accumulation of knowledge and information. Not that we all didn't, some people did, the Egyptians had their script. I think the Nubians also had one. There was a lot of West African scripts. So there were lots and lots of people African societies who did have scripts. So not taking away from that. But there were also many others that were, mostly oral in their transmission of knowledge, whereas knowledge was passed on from generation to generation or from age group to age group, and it was done directly. It was either in a group or, one-on-one. Even when it came to employment, they had a system where the apprentices would learn under a teacher who had showed himself to be good at what he did. And fathers taught their children, their sons, as well as mothers taught their daughters how to to trade and to deal in certain skills and crafts. So when the children reached adulthood or puberty, so adulthood was not merely, oh, you reach an age and now you're officially an adult. No, it was a gradual process. It was a training, and then the training culminated in the initiation or in the test. So that was the test. It was not simply that, oh, you exist, therefore you're okay and you automatically pass. No, everyone had training from childhood, and everybody was expected to take on certain roles, but you're prepared for those roles. So in terms of your place in society, in terms of your livelihood, you were directly taught, you're directly influenced by the people around you. And that's how knowledge was transmitted. And with that direct transmission was also the usefulness of it. If you're being taught a skill as a young man or a young woman, you knew what the use of that skill was, whether it was weaving, whether it was farming, whether it was, the skill was not simply taught in an abstract manner that if you plant a seed during this month and the rain and the precipitation falls at this rate and so on, the seed will therefore grow and become wonderful and great. And this in terms of, no, you'd be taught, you'd go to the field and you'd be taught how to put the seed in the ground, cover it up, what you needed to do, weed it, put other seeds in. So all that was practical. You learned how to take care of animals, how to feed your cattle or take them to graze, and when to take them to drink water and so on. So the knowledge was passed on directly, but it was also passed on practically. It was both oral and practical. And what happened to a lot of us as Africans, especially during the colonial education, the focus was more on the on the bureaucracy, on the civil service. So most of the people who were actually the learned people, the first of the learned people, were put into the civil service, and they learned how to do the bureaucratic work, how to fill in paperwork, how to take census and numbers and that kind of information. And those were our first scholars. Whereas you look at other places, the people who rose to prominence were usually the cutthroat people, the ruthless and aggressive ones, the ones who shot to power by taking that whole there will be blood sort of scenario, that whole robber baron, that whole the bloody history of Europe and so on. So the people who took power for them were the most ruthless, but the people who eventually became the more powerful were either the people who went to the missionary schools and so on, or the people who went abroad. So some of them came back with they met people from different places, and that expanded their worldview. And some of them also got exposed to some other aspects that maybe narrowed their worldview in a way, because two people can experience similar situations and come away completely different, have a different take from it. So it depends on the experiences. But in the most case, the first of the educated Africans were civil servants. They were there were people who did the work for their indirectly for their colonial masters, and those were the people who But some of them also, in terms of that, they also got the idea for organization, for being able to, to take numbers and to organize and to make sense of all that. So it was a good thing in a way, but it was a limiting thing because they made use of the skills, but the next generations didn't take that and do more with it. So in most countries, yeah, everywhere though, a government job is a cushy job. It's something that you're in it for life, and you're not there to ruffle feathers. You're simply there to tick the dots and leave by the end of the day. So the uselessness of the information is not because the container, the African container is bereft or deficient in any way. It's simply that they do not have that will or to make something of it. It's that you simply take, you graduate, you do your job, you're a good employee. They're very good employees, you excel in your field, and it's wonderful and great. It's just that we don't translate that into a win for the bigger community, unfortunately. Other people, let's not compare ourselves to other people. Sometimes it's just good to look at ourselves. So what we should do is, whatever area of skill that we have as individuals, we should look that to say, okay, I will, for the sake of living, obviously we have to make a living. You have to work. That's just the reality. There's no way of saying, oh, we'll just go to live in the clouds and we have to work. But when it comes to the time that we're given, that those few hours that we're given to ourselves, we should be able to say, how can I make something of myself? How can I take these skills and use it for my community? Whether it's, let's say you're an IT guy, you know how to do coding. How can you use that to make someone's life better? You can teach children how to, get into it, or just talk about it and encourage children to look into it and so on. Sometimes that's the seed that that somebody might need. Somebody might not, because some people, it's not because they are it's, some people are just lost. Some people just need guidance. Some young people just need to know what the options are in life, in terms of career, in terms of even where to live. Some people might not even have considered moving somewhere or going to a different place, and even that suggestion itself, it's something for many who are just like, whoa, I never thought of that. So we have to also think of how we can do, we can change things. We can also be innovative in our own lives, in the lives of other people, instead of simply using our knowledge and education to just, oh, well, make a living and that's the end of it. You're supposed to do more with that, even in making your personal life better. Even if, let's say, you work, don't let that stop you from doing something more, even if it's in terms of creativity, in terms of business, in terms of artistic creativity, all of that. Yeah, imagination. Sometimes we limit ourselves too much by our reality, what we perceive as reality, and we forget that we are also in charge of making our own reality. We're not hostage to it. In some ways, yeah, we're subject to it, but we still have a measure of autonomy. We still have some choice and direction in what we can do with the time that we're given, in that limited time when you have your own time. So not saying that you can be, at work and slacking off and all that stuff. So, okay, so let me play the video. Well, it's short enough to be able to play several times. So, yeah, so let's listen.
They realize that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering, for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learned useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yep.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day.
Mm.
So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has.
Mm.
You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge.
Mm.
A container of useless knowledge.
Right.
That is why today we have doctors, we have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors?
Mm.
So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University.
Yep.
We have lived with Mukuru.
And by the way, this idea of, just dispensing, it's not just, an African thing. Increasingly, the medical profession is, you don't get as much time, with your doctor as much as you want. Like I said, everything that was used to be direct is now indirect. The same way that knowledge used to be, from one person to another, it's also the same way. Like, for example, when you go to, the doctor, and, it's not to say this is simply the way that things work. You'll see like 3 or 4 nurses or, people in between. No, actually not even the nurses. Firstly, you'll go, there's paperwork to be filled, there's, things to be done, and you'll see all these different people before you even see the actual doctor. So there's many, many different steps to, even that, as, as opposed to when, in the old days, in the traditional ways, when you just go to, the doctor or the medicine person, and you'd have a direct line of communication between you and, the medicine man or the medicine person, whatever. And that would have, they would tell you what the problem was, whether you had to go get, some plants or some herbs, or whether it was a spiritual change, whatever it was. But it was usually a direct, one-on-one interaction. So everything, in the modern world becomes, the extra steps to doing things. And sometimes it's necessary because of the modern complex world that we live in, but it also takes away from, some of that fellow feeling, some of that communal aspect of it, and it makes people not, not be so social as we used to be, not to have that, intimacy of communication, that, or directness of communication that we used to have before. So as Africans, we also have had to adjust to that new system where things are not direct, things are not, oral, things are written down, contracts are signed, and so on, and there's paperwork to be done. So we had to learn all that, civil service, but we're still not being trained to become, civil, not say masters, but they say civil servants, civil employers, let me say that, because we are good civil servants, we're good at doing that, but we're not civil innovators, we're not societal entrepreneurs. Not too many of us are taught that, even though there's still a robust and thriving African hustle culture where everybody does something, everybody has a side hustle. So that shows you that we are capable of doing that. We're capable of being, educated. We have the will. We just don't have. We have the way. We don't have the way to go there. We're struggling, not because we are, we lack, but because we lack direction. So, okay, let's continue. It's only a few more minutes, seconds.
Since God created the world, all they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, Who was the laborer? The graduate from the school of remembering. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable. So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production. So this is what made Africa poor.
Yes. So, as he said, you get the civil service, you get the salary, you get the perks of life, and it's wonderful and great. But then you don't get the leaders. You have a society that stagnates, that stays behind. Even when you look at and I don't like to make comparisons because they're usually just comparing two different contexts and making false comparisons. But Japan had a good run, after the Second War, even though all that Nagasaki stuff. But they were innovators for quite some time when they were not able to have an army and a military, but they got really good at technology and making very good products. But due to a lack of, maybe, let me say this, they became too comfortable. They became used to having the new products, and everybody became used to doing things one way and not wanting to challenge the system. And they also have a very corporate culture of respect for for authority and so on. While that respect might be good, it also tempers innovation eventually. So they started being more concerned about pleasing the boss than actually coming up with new ideas. So you had other companies, the Koreans and so on, take over the technological invention, and meanwhile they were still working as hard as they did, but they were not producing quite as much. So you'd see this cases of overworked salarymen and so on. But the country itself was declining while people were still working harder. So working harder does not necessarily mean being innovative. It helps, but it's not enough. You actually have to provide an environment where you foster that freedom of thinking, where people can think, people can look at problems and be able to solve them, and not just being able to identify problems. That's also a very important aspect of problem solving, because how can you solve a problem when you cannot see that it is one and identify it correctly? A lot of the times we humans, we see the symptoms. By the time we see the problem, we're only seeing the symptoms. By the time we acknowledge that something needs to be done, we're only doing something about the broken windows, for example. The broken windows is this theory that they had that, if people live in an area that is physically dilapidated, then that's what leads to crime and so on. I think I'm simplifying it, but that's how it was. So in order to reduce crime, then you should fix up the place and make it look nice and all that stuff, so criminals are less want to do their criminal activities. But that's to say, that's like putting the cart before the horse, because in actuality, the reason why there are broken windows and all this trash on the ground is because maybe poverty and other social conditions have caused that. One is the symptom and one is the cause. So sometimes people confuse the symptoms for the cause, and they say, well, then we should just clean up the streets and do this, as if that's going to solve the deep economic problems or the social issues that are plaguing society. So, sometimes we don't see the effect of, of what we do. We don't see the effect of our image. We don't see the effect of education. It's everything that we do. We're supposed to see what it produces. You're not supposed to just learn to learn, or learn to pass classes, or learn to be the best, the number one student in the country, which is good. It's still good to to foster that sense of competition, but you can be competitive and be creative. You can be, you can do well in school, but also, have, do music or be creative or other things. So, but also in terms of the importance, we should also be able to justify why and what we teach. We should also be able to say what is it that is useful for this, and if it's not useful, then let's not, force children to cram all these things and just to remember things. So our emphasis for children or for education should be to produce, not simply to reproduce, because that's all we're doing now. Education for the most part is to make the children reproduce the information, to take it in, and then to reproduce it on paper, instead of to produce something that, is original, or is that furthers the body of knowledge, or the accumulation of it. It's not simply to take it in, it's to add something to it. So I think that should be the emphasis of knowledge, not just in terms of education, but in terms of personal enlightenment, in terms of, even accumulation of knowledge and information. Information is endless, especially now with our great access to it. And if you start taking it in, it will take you forever, and you will never have enough. You can never know everything. So it's also up to us as people to say, well, when is enough enough, and when do we balance that with action? When do we put the knowledge into action, or combine it with action, not simply to say, but to do, or to teach? That's also something, because we can't be lifelong students. You can always keep learning. That's wonderful and great, but once you accumulate some knowledge, you should share it. You should take that and give it to somebody, because that's also how you got yours, unless, even if it's through a book, somebody wrote that book. So it's not just to take information in, it's also to share it with others. It's also to make it available. It's also to pass it on, because while we can wish for the good old days of yore, when, grandparents would, tell stories to their grandchildren. Nowadays, if you want to preserve those stories for the descendants, then you have to record them, you have to write them down, you have to put them in paper or in some form of, semi-permanent medium. You cannot just rely on, the passing on of information through generations. You do have to capture them in one way or another technologically, which is a good thing in a way, because it reaches more people. When the books that were written, who capture the spirit and the experiences of our people, that is going to be good for the next generation. They'll hear the stories, they'll know what happened, and we'll have our voices as well as our images also be a part of become prominent in human history. But that is what we have to do now. We cannot rely on the old methods of preserving information, because, as we see, our human resource is slowly being, underused, undervalued, and underappreciated. We have a great population of young people, of educated people, of curious, wonderful, great people, and yet, we're still letting them down. We're still having, more students than employment opportunities. And so we still have a long way to go. And one of them is to look at the state of our education, the content of our education, and say what is useful, and also what we should prioritize, what we should give emphasis to, and why is it useful for us. And also to give the children an aim and a vision. Why do you learn what you learn? What is it to just be, it's not just to become an employee. You should learn the skills to work, to know how to work for others, of course, but to be able, if it demands, to work and create for yourself. So, having said that, I think that is enough, talking for me. I think I will. It's about, oh wow, yeah, it's that time of the night. The architect said he was going to take a shower and come on. That must be the longest, shower in the history of showers. So the architect, if you still want to hop on and have you say, that would be wonderful and great. And then everybody else in the chat as well. But I will give it another maybe 10-15 minutes, and then we'll close out from there, because hey, I like to talk, but sometimes it's good to talk to someone as well. But I just wanted to share that with everyone tonight when it comes to to knowledge, because all of us do, like I can get, especially when I get into research, I can get into things. I like to learn, I like to read, I like to listen to things, and it's wonderful and great. But even I have to ask myself that, what is the point of it all? Why do I increase and learn and learn and learn? What's the point? At one point you have to, yeah, it's good to share and all that, but it also gives you this sense of responsibility that for the people who don't know, or maybe the people who sometimes ignorance is a gift. It's not just blissful, but it's a gift. It's one of those things that at least they have an excuse. What was it? They not know what they do. Yeah. So at least the people who don't know, they have an excuse. But once once you read the blueprint, once you learn, miseducation, once you learn the distraction, all of that, then what's the excuse? Why are we still not doing things? Why are we still sitting around? Why are we still asking the same old questions? And it makes you feel responsible. It makes you feel that you should do something. Knowing is not enough. Doing is more important. And this is something that we Africans always knew how to do. We knew how to do. We had the transmission of knowledge. We knew these things, but knowledge was useful only as much as you practice it. It's not armchair, that armchair theoretical aspect of it is wonderful and great. And karibu sana Helen Yameral Abera. I hope I say that right. Karibu sana. I'll just say the Helen Yameral Abera. Good to have you. So yeah, the whole point of knowledge and information should not simply be to earn a living. That's a great point of it. If you're not alive, you can't work, you can't do anything. But we should teach in knowledge and education in terms of how you can apply it, how you can work for yourself, how you can improve your family, your community. What problems do we have that we can solve? If you're teaching children in any area, whether the city, whether the countryside, whether the village, whether the ghetto, you should go and ask those African Black children, how can you improve your own community? How can you improve your house? How can you improve yourself? What sort of problems do you see around you, and what can you do to make them better? However, just to have them thinking about things like that, to have them start asking those kinds of questions, and also to tailor education and knowledge towards those aspects of it. If the problem is, drought, or the problem is water, what can you do as individuals to either get access to it, or to preserve it, to share it? All those things, those should be our top priorities from the youth to the people in the college students. It's good to learn about all these things, but even if you're learning about science, like technology and medicine, how are you going to use that to help your own people? How are you going to tackle the problems of transport and poverty and getting it to those people? You're simply not going to become a doctor and you're like, okay, now it's time to practice, let the people come to me. So unfortunately, we do have to tackle problems. If you're a teacher, you're not just going to show up the first day at work and say, okay, I'm here to teach. You also have to work with the literacy of the children. You have to work with children who speak different languages and so on, or come from different backgrounds. So it takes a lot more than just showing up and doing something. And then even after that, you still have to think of how you can go beyond just your limited skills. Not that you limit your skills, but how you can extend your skills to further to help yourself and your community. So, in terms of reimagining Africa, we have to become more imaginative. We have to extend our imagination beyond just what we taught, what we know, what we've experienced. We have to go beyond that and actually imagine a new reality, imagine a new paradigm, imagine a new way of doing things. That's, we don't have to become, desperate. Necessity is the mother of invention, but we don't have to wait for utmost necessity and desperation for us to innovate. We should be innovating whether we are comfortable or whether we are, poor, whether there's scarcity or whether there's surplus. We should always be innovating. We should always be using. That's the responsibility of knowledge and information. That's, it's information and knowledge is actually a privilege. There are people who do not have that access to it, who do not have that time for it, who do not have, who cannot afford it, even monetarily. So for us who have that, even just the time is precious nowadays. Time is a precious commodity. So even having time to sit down and read and do things, that's also something that sometimes we don't see the real value of, especially when we have it less and less. So when we do get that access to privileged knowledge, information, thoughts, ideas, all that, it's not simply to accumulate it, Scrooge-like, and say, look how big my store, my container of information is to say, what use can I make of this store of information? Or how can I, apply it? How can I do something with it instead of just, making it bigger and bigger? Because that's all we'll get. We'll just have, this big-headed people. That's why they call our intellectuals eggheads. I don't know if that's what they call them, but people who just take in and take in and take in, and they're clever, they're great, it's wonderful, and they can quote and say things, but doing, somebody who does with less knowledge is still admirable, because it shows in the actions. Actions, as they say, speaks always louder than words. So Hiwan, karibu Hiwan, thank you for being here. Habari Hiwan. So I don't know if I should play. Did everybody get a chance to see the video, the clip, the earlier clip I played? I don't know if I should play it again, or I've already played it several times, because I did play it a couple of times. So if you want me to play the video again, the one we were talking about today, where we're talking about, the video is called "The Answer Is Here: Why Africa Is Poor." But he was talking about where the title comes from. He was talking about the container of useless information, which is the African mind. So let me know in the comment section if you've seen it, and we can move on. That's fine. If you haven't, I can just show it briefly. So let me know. 1, to play, and 2, to move on. All right. And we will welcome the architect. I was winding down. You are 8 minutes. You're 8 minutes before you missed it.
What, you're winding down, you said? You're about to close off now?
No, I was. If you didn't come through, I was going to.
No, I say I can't leave you hanging like that, man. Like that. Can I see this video?
Oh, okay.
Is that the video you was talking about?
Yes. Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Then I'll play it again. Hiwan said 1 to play it again. So okay, so I'll just play it again on due to anonymous demand. Not anonymous.
That if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but can you hear properly? Is it sound?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right, okay, all right, I'll continue.
Away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learned useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa?
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yeah.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge.
Right.
That is why today we have doctors, we have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University.
Yeah.
We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. Okay. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable.
Right.
So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production. So this is what made Africa poor.
Hey, Tanzan, wasn't that the leader of Congo at one point?
You know, I'm not sure who it is. I'm sorry to say it was a previous video from SNN, but I would have to find that out. Do you know who it is?
Yeah, I know his face. I watched some documentaries about him. I think he was the leader of Congo at one point, but he got killed by one of his, well, he used to have child soldiers when he was younger. I don't know how true this is, but one of the child soldiers ended up killing him.
Oh, was it, I know his name started with a D, it escapes my mind right now.
I'm gonna search it right now and tell you what it is. Let me see who it is.
Okay. Yeah, but what he said is, you know, it is the truth. A lot of us as Africans, we do have, we are under, you know, this education system that does not really do much for us. We still, you know, and we learn a lot. This is, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say he was the leader of Congo for 3 years actually, and his name was
Kabila?
Yes, Kabila. His name was Kabila.
Oh wow, he was really young in that. I didn't recognize him in that. Yeah. Kabila. His son became also president. Laurent Kabila.
Yes, Joseph Kabila. Yeah.
Joseph and Lawrence. Yes.
And then Felix is now the president now of Congo.
Yes.
But I want the people to know. I found out something about Felix. He was a businessman in Belgium, which is funny. Belgium, Congo. He was a businessman in Belgium that ended up leaving there for some reason. You know how sometimes that's how they plan their leaders in Africa. You know.
Yeah.
They're businessmen in their country first. They see them as businessmen because they have money, so they get in certain rooms and so on with people, and then they just set them up for fall right in the presidential position back in the continent, and no one knows anything.
No one knows. No one knows. So.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so our education system is meant to overwhelm us with too much information and little context and no prioritization and no explanation. You're simply taking in information and that's all you're doing. You're simply regurgitating it, putting it in a test and moving on. That prepares you for civil work. It prepares you for working tedious hours, doing boring the same thing over and over again. So school is preparation for work, but it's not preparation for thinking. It's not preparation for starting things on your own. It's simply doing what you're told to do. So a lot of the information we learn even now, because when we talk about African traditions and the meanings and so on, we're supposed to look and see what settle down what worked for us, what the principles were behind it, and what we can use for to help our present and the future. But at the same time, we're supposed to have the same critical mind when we look at the modern things. We're not supposed to just accept things that are given to us in this present time and say, oh well, because it's new it must be good or it must be right. We have to take everything that is new and subject it to the same critical eye that we subject the old and the traditional, and say, is this new thing good for us as a people? Is it good for me as an individual? Is it good for my family? Is it good for the people around us? Before we just accept things as, oh well, that's the way things are going, that's what we need to, that's the directions we need to go. So we have to have a critical eye when it comes to everything, when it comes to our traditions, what worked and what is not relevant anymore, and also for the modern, what is useful and what we should maybe stay away from. So you know and even when it comes to education, we have to look at our curriculum and see what are we teaching the children and why are we teaching them these things. Even it's not just in Africa, but in so many school systems, you look at the curriculum and what you're teaching the children, and a lot of the times I don't and even though I love knowledge, but most people don't really need to learn too much of the stuff. They need to know just enough to to hone their skills and so on, but you don't need to everybody to learn everything about everything. Rich?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
Uh, so no, I think I agree with everything that you said. By the way, I'm just moving around this morning. It's kind of
Yeah,
early.
it sounds like you're bumping into
Um,
stuff.
yeah, I know I agree with everything you said, but this is also a part of the brain drain that they
Mhm.
want Africans to keep continuing like making bigger, continue on this journey of this brain drain. That's also a part of the brain drain. Um, when we can't use our minds to solve our own problems, that's a brain drain right there, because our minds are being used to solve other people's problems. Some of these problems are not even problems. I remember when I was in school, um, everyone talking about going to work for this place or going to work for that place, you know what I mean? Even our own people going to work for this place and that place. And all they're going there to do is to refine this colonial system, in whether directly or indirectly. Because if you participate in it, you're also saying that it's right, you're legitimizing it. So um
Mhm.
but instead of going to school to see like how they can use their newfound knowledge and try to make Africans' life better, they are trying to make someone else's dream come true. That's what they're going to school for, and that's how they want us to stay. Because that way we're trapped. We're trapped, right? We can't move unless we pay their bills. We can't move unless we do this. We can't move unless we do that. That's what they want.
Are you
So,
scrubbing the dishes?
oh no, I was just opening a plastic bag. Yeah.
It sounds like some dishes are getting clean there.
No, 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 no. It was that's in the kitchen actually. That's somewhere else. That's getting
Okay.
clean. But yeah, like so I was saying, uh we gotta try to provide leeway for people to actually come out of school and actually serve their people, and not just somebody who want to make themselves look smart. I
Yeah,
think
and
that
for
that's
me,
the
I
truth.
don't even have a problem with, I think that people should go to school, get a job and,
Yeah, I believe so.
earn a living. Definitely, you should do that. I'm just saying that you should do more than just that. You shouldn't, leave work or school and think that, that the end of life and thinking is over. Actually, that's when it begins. Okay, maybe
Well,
mute your mic a little bit and then until you're done, because it's really like scraping the
oh,
mic.
okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad. No, I was gonna say, actually, before I was gonna say that, crap, I forgot now. I lost my train of thought. But anyway, it had to do with the education thing still, because it's a big deal. It's really a big deal. I see it as a big deal, honestly. Um, I think that's why they want to move everyone into the suburbs as well,
That's
so
a
that,
big part of it. Yeah.
yeah, so that they can keep them there locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a job and you got two jobs and you're still broke. And there's a difference between living and surviving, eh?
Mm-hmm.
We have always been in survival mode since we met these people. Always. And everything Dr. John Henry Clark said, everything that comes out of their mind is to keep the world in that state, that state that they had the world in after they came and stole us from Africa. Everything else, even the ships they built during those times was to keep us in that state. The school, the fact that they didn't want us to read was to keep us in that state. But now it's more advanced now. Now we can read, now we can do this, now we can do that, but we're still trapped because we're not learning anything that can liberate us in any type of way. And that's what I was saying.
Yeah, it's useless knowledge. It's not the fact that whether we were able to read or write or that helps, but it's the mentality of why you're trying to read and write. What are you trying to do with that knowledge and information? We have a lot of our people who can read and write nowadays, when there was a time when very few people could, but that has not really done too much for us to move forward as a people in the race of life. So for me, it's not so much about the skills and the abilities, it's what you do with them. If you have skills in a certain way and all you see is a means for a living, then that's all it will be. It's a way to exchange your skill set for labor, and that's what he was talking about. When we become simply laborers and workers, and all we value with our human resources is what we can produce in terms of money or earning a living. But the human a person is more than just the monetary value. We devalue ourselves because we don't recognize those other aspects of ourselves as people. We don't look inside ourselves. We don't retrospect. We don't think deeply. And then when we do think, we don't think about useful things like solving problems, even recognizing problems. That's a big way of thinking, because you have to find the problem. There's no mathematical solution without first presenting a problem. There's no proof without having premises. So first you say if this and that, and then you prove it. But we don't even have some of us don't even know what the problem is. Some of us the problem can range from we're just not good enough, or there's something wrong with us, or all these things. But we have what it takes. It's just we don't know where to take it. We don't know what to do with it. We're capable of doing something, but we don't know what to do with it. So this is our dilemma, that we have knowledge, but it's not being used. It's useless if it's just sitting there, if we're just acquiring it and we don't have a place to take it. Before we continue, Hewan said, in terms of that, if you start thinking outside the box as an African leader, the West mobilized rebels in your own country to destroy you. Well, yeah, that aspect, but at the same time, if you don't think outside the box, then you'll still be hemmed inside it. So it's either you try to get out and do something about it, or you stay in and you're locked in. So either way, they're still going to do something about it. In this case, following the rules doesn't help, and not following them doesn't help either. So it depends on how you want to go. But the other option isn't nice either. I'll just say that. So you can either think within it and be caged, or think outside it and risk, the risks. I won't elaborate.
Well, we already know what happens when we stay inside of it, So when we try to go outside of it, then we open the window for some other possibility.
Say that again.
I said we already know what will happen if we stay inside of it. So the idea that we're thinking of going outside of it is good, because it means that you don't know the possibilities yet. It's an unknown, right? We can stay in the known and be comfortable in our own captivity, or we can go out in the unknown and explore and see what else the world can offer us, because what it's offering us right now is not satisfactory. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. So it's not a nice choice, but that's the choice. You can either stay in the burning house, or you can run outside to a hail of gunfire. But either way, you have to make a choice, and none of them is pretty. But at least one, you have a risk of freedom instead of being locked in and burning inside. So yeah, there's nothing good comes easy, and you basically have to fight for everything. You have to compete, you have to struggle for everything that you get in life. And this is something that he also talks about in the video, that in the clip he talks about that we are comfortable, we have learned to make our way in the system, and we have been given those whether it's the salary or the trinkets, whatever it is, even a comfortable place, and that comfort takes away from the fight, the will to do more than just that. So you give somebody a little bit, they say the opposite of give somebody an inch and they'll take a mile. Well, for us, they'll just give us an inch, and we don't want the miles. We're just happy with a few inches. So that's what happens. Oh, there you go. So we're given a little and we're satisfied with a little, whereas some people are given a little and now they want everything. So
well, it's also like this. We have to think about it like this. Humans are here to develop. Humans are here to develop and produce ideas to solve their problems. That's why we're here. Rather than that, we won't be here. What use are we here? So if we're gonna just be stagnant and listen to what everyone else in the world say, every other people, even the Indians and everybody in Western Asia and everybody in Europe and everywhere else around the world, everyone else has watched Africa be stagnant. And they don't even just watch it be stagnant. They watch it stagnant, and then they take away what we have already, what God gave us. The things that we don't even know how to turn into products yet. The raw materials we don't even know how to product. They start there. The whole world stopped there and took those things from Africa and developed themselves. And then we are participating in their development while we're being underdeveloped. That's what's happening to us out here. When anyone in the world think about Africa, they don't be thinking about not Silicon Valley. They be thinking about poverty. Even if there's not poverty all over Africa, they be thinking about poverty and war and warlords. And then they start thinking about resources. The resources these warlords probably fighting over us because of the strings that are being pulled from the outside. That's what people think about when they think about Africa. The image is changing now, but it's only changing too because a lot of Africans are rising up as well. Everyone is not just sitting down. A lot of us are rising up and saying, no, we can't let Africa go down like that. Even if we are from the Caribbean, even if we are from, even if we live in Europe, even if we live somewhere in the Western world, in Russia somewhere, a lot of Africans all over the world saying we can't let this happen. And they're speaking up now. That's why the image is changing now, and we have to be so careful with that because one thing these Europeans like to do is they like to say they give you things, they give you freedom, they give you that, they give you this. No one's supposed to give us nothing. We need to build ourselves, and then when we're done, we go to this bully and tell this bully cough up our lunch money. That's what we can tell this bully when we're done with this. We're not gonna say nobody gonna give us anything anymore. We're gonna build ourselves, and we're gonna build our own systems, our own judicial systems, financial systems, economic systems, education systems, health systems, and all the other systems that need to be placed in areas of all areas of human activity in order for us to function as a people, and not just as some scattered remnants of some powerful nation or some powerful continent.
I agree. I agree. And Hewan says, we have to sacrifice our comfort and go back to the way of our ancestors to solve African problems. We can't solve our problems with borrowed knowledge. I would say that we can pick and choose. We can critique. Any information that comes our way should be looked at critically, should be looked at unbiased, and should be looked at with the aim of, is this useful or is it not? Can we apply this or can we not? Is this relevant or not? This applies both to our traditional knowledge and wisdom, which although we should hold with more reverence than the modern information, but at the same time we have to look at it with a critical eye. Even if it's good, there's some things that are good but may not necessarily be useful. There are some things that may be wonderful and great and maybe just harmless at this point. And then there's some things that we forgot that were great and powerful that if we adopted right now, we would change the direction and momentum of where we are going as African people. There are times when things seem, to be going down, and then we discover this, long lost power within ourselves, and people just rise up. And this has happened many, many times in our history as Africans. It happened, with the Jamaicans. It happened all the way from the slave ships to coming here to, the Africans on the continent. When we had that uprising in the civil rights, it was not just here, but it was in African countries everywhere. And when the spark was lit, it just went all around everywhere, the global African world. So sometimes we can stagnate, but when we rise up, we really do, do a lot. So, we can change the momentum if we start being realistic with what the situation is, if we start identifying the problems, not just overlooking them, but really looking at them with a critical eye and saying, what is the problem? What is the solution, and how can we work towards doing something about it, not just thinking about it? Because at one point we can think and theorize and get all the information, but we have to say, well, now it's time for action. Now we have learned enough for us to be confident in where we're going, because that's also something that we lack. We lack the confidence to move forward. Sometimes we sit back and wring our hands and say, oh, woe is us, but we don't have that confidence to say that, no, we did this before. With the right mentality, we can do it again. So
yeah, you know what though, like a sense of oneness must be created in order for that to be realized. There must have to be a sense of oneness. Like somebody have to stand up. Someone with notoriety needs to stand up and lead. Say something, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and let me take a moment to say, habari. It's the African way. Habari, BJ. Habari, Ndugu. No, Focus was here earlier, so he beat you to it, Brother Bakari. But Amani to you too. Thank you for joining us, and to you, the architect, as well. So. Yeah, so we do have quite a lot of the changing to do. We have a lot of adjustment, but the main thing is to change our mentality and to change the direction that we're going. To have a plan, to have a path, to have a way to go. Because there's no point. Knowledge is not an end in itself. Just piling up information in your brain, it doesn't help you. It's that use, it's that application that really, puts it. Like I said earlier with the Scrooge McDuck, the people who are greedy for money, for material goods, or they're greedy for just, showing, certain achievements. That's all wonderful and great, nothing wrong with those things. But if that's all you're doing is just, piling up, holding money, that's a miser. You don't really do anything. It doesn't make you happy, and it's certainly not making anybody else happy. You're simply happy because you're getting more of it, but you're not getting a lot out of it. So someone who is wise, you would accumulate money, but also know how to spend it, know how to also what's the difference of accumulate? The opposite of accumulating? The opposite, yes. So if you're wise, you do accumulate it, but you also use it. So habari Dugu, Brother Bakari, good to have you in the house. Yes, the African mind has to have solved problems worldwide. Yeah, wherever we are, we have to be able to identify our problems first of all, because it seems an easy thing. It seems an easy thing to just whine and complain. And like I said, sometimes we look too much to the symptoms. We look too much to, the broken windows and the trash in the street, and we don't see the cause of it, which is, it could be from poverty to, to lack of family structure, to society's issues, but we just see people acting out, and we think that the symptom is the cause. So identifying the problem is a great that's the first step. And then now coming to critique the solutions, that's the other thing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're simply seeing which one works for us, and that's what we do.
Yeah, but you know something. I remember I was telling you the last time about the unit of measurement. Sorry about my bag. Sorry. Sorry, I was telling you last time about the unit of measurement, and
Yes.
it leads back to this, right? Because okay, let's imagine a world. Let's create a utopia right here. Okay, let's imagine a world where all Africans on the planet, whether directly or indirectly, was solving African problems.
Mm-hmm.
All Africans on the planet was solving problems that will lead back to solving a problem in Africa, no matter where they are in the world. That's the utopia that we have to create, because if we don't, then all our resources are still going to be taken away from us, including our human resources. Because if we don't use, it's like a muscle. If we don't use it, you're going to lose it. So if we don't use our knowledge, if we don't create a space where we can use our knowledge to solve our own problems, then someone else will use that brain capacity to solve their own problems.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing now. We are in the service of other people. We serve anybody but us. And then when it comes to serving ourselves, we have other people come and serve us, which is, this brain drain. We're draining our brain to go to other places, and yet we're bringing other people to come and work in our lands. We're bringing brains to Africa, and then our brains are leaving Africa. So it's not just a brain drain, it's a brain exchange, but we're actually losing, because when they come to our lands with their brains, they're getting paid and they're getting an advantage. When we go to their lands, we're giving away our brains, So we have to start putting our brains towards working. And that's the reason why this education to job mentality is harmful, not because getting a job as your destination is a bad thing, but because for many people, for African and Black people, that's the end. That's that's the end of the journey. Whereas a job should just be the beginning. A job is simply a place where you go to exercise, to apply your education, but it's also to expand your life. Now you have the freedom to actually go beyond your work, and in your real life, in your outside life, go beyond just your job. But for most people, the job is the end. I make money, I go to work, I have employment and benefits and all that, and that's the end of it. So the mentality that we have as people is that, we give our minimum. We think that that the job is everything. That's all you need to do, and no more. And yet, when you see other people, you have to work with other people. You have to form outside communities. Even in a job, people have clubs based on their jobs or other things to go beyond just your salary. You have to do something beyond just your employment. So a lot of our people don't have that imagination, that thinking, that you're supposed to use your skills to not just help yourself, not just to get employment, but to also help your people. So, yeah.
But it's not just the fact that our people think like that. It's also we're bred like, it's almost, we are bred like that over here. If you think about it, we are bred to find a job. We are bred to get to in college and get a big student loan. We are bred to do all these things, except think of ways of solving our own problems. Because when they can keep us busy, we won't even think about Africa. Africa is probably just coming on a lot of Africans' mind now, because the backward brain drain was going on for so long. Backward brain drain was going on for so long that we have become comfortable with it being like this now. Like, we don't even see it. We don't even see it anymore, because it's like we're trapped there now. They have made us comfortable. Like, this is life, you know. This is life. You go to school, come back out with a big student loan, get a nice job, and then the rest of your life you pay that student loan off. That's how it goes over here. So we are trapped over here with student loans and those things. We are trapped with credit card bills. We are trapped with these heavy rent and mortgages. Everything they do is to keep the people that they have kept down for a while in the same position. And now and again, they pull one of us out of that group and they say, look, what are you guys gonna say? We didn't give you guys freedom and democracy. When you have this rich black man here, he spent all his life dribbling balls. That's all he did. And he's a rich man now. That's what they want us to do, dribble balls and make them laugh.
Exactly. And even the idea of poverty and progress and all these things, when we talk about reimagining ourselves, redefining ourselves, we also have to reimagine and redefine these terms that are placed on us and on other people. It's not just us. When we look at, we are poor. You're talking about the richest country, but the highest debt, the most unhappy people, the most deranged. If things are so good in certain countries, why is there so much violence? Why is there still so much uncertainty and unhappiness and so on? So sometimes people don't tell you the cost of all this stuff. And when you look at it, if somebody in Africa, let's say they're in a village, they have food every day, they have where to sleep, they don't have a mortgage, they don't have rent, they don't have that was not poverty. That was simply being able to survive on the land, being able to be happy and free. That was freedom to me. When you don't have every day you have to get up and do something, you're working because you're eating, not because somebody else is putting a pressure on you to work. When you work, when it's voluntary, when you work for yourself, to feed yourself, to see the fruit of your labor, that's not being poor, that's being free. So we also took on their own definition of what it means to be free, what it means to be happy, what it means to be successful. And we also have to redefine those things in terms of our own principles. What does it mean to be successful? A successful person is somebody who is respected by other people, somebody who helps other people, somebody who takes care of themselves and the other people, not somebody who simply has a lot of money, which is the modern definition of success. So everything that we do, everything that we define, is not just defining ourselves, but also defining, these terms that we hold so dear. Where when we teach our children, you should, be a great person. What exactly is a great person? When they see, the representations in the media, the people that people admire or worship are, sometimes not the best role models. Some of them are, actually without models. Some of them just, attention seekers, or just people who are just loud and vulgar, just to be loud and vulgar. So you're telling them to be great, but what are the examples and what are the images that you're putting in front of them? So we have to redefine everything, from success, from morality, from beauty, from honor. All of these things we have to define as as Africans and Black people. Karibu Bwana Bakari, Amani. Brother Bakari, you're on. You're muted, but you're on.
Can y'all hear me?
Sort of.
Hey, good morning. Can y'all...
Okay. There we go. Amani.
Amani. How y'all doing about you and
Oh no, we're losing you again. I don't know if you can hear me. Let's try this again.
Let me
Okay, let's all mute and let.
How about now? How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, much better. Go ahead.
Because I'm on my phone. Because I'm out. But I heard the young man say all they want us to do is entertain, right? Bounce the ball, run a ball, kick a ball, crack jokes, right? Uh, and he's correct. I agree with that. But I also think if we start teaching our children at a young age that has the ability to run, catch or kick a ball, bounce a ball, or crack jokes and make money, if we start teaching them at a young age that when they make that money, what they need to do with it, come back, I don't think the running of the running, the kicking, and the bouncing of the ball, or cracking jokes would be such a big problem. The problem I have with it is when they make their money, they forget who they are and they don't want to come back. They don't want to come back to help. And like I'm gonna give you an example of what I watch baseball. This guy, he used to play, he's retired now. His name was Mariano Rivera. He played with the New York Yankees, right? When he got older and he had two big contracts coming, he refused to sign a contract with the New York Yankees unless they put $12 million, not of his money. They had to sign a contract saying they was going to put $12 million in Panama into developing the neighborhood where he was from. That's the only way he would sign with them again, because everybody wanted him. He was so great. So there was no doubt. They put $12 million, and it was, it was in a black area, black neighborhood, but he made sure that they put that $12 million into that to help develop that area. When we make it, right? When a lot of times when we make it, what we call make it because of money, we tend to want to get away and prove, that we are better and forget that the problems are there. Till the problems hit them when they're rich. Then once the problems hit them, the people they forgot about, that's the people they want to stand for them. So that's what I say about the ball thing, that if we're going to teach them at a young age to come back and do what they're supposed to do, because it's a learning process, and show them what needs to be done, then it would be okay. Because they are part of the ones that have the resources to help build these medical clinics that we need. They are the ones that have the resources that can connect the diaspora back with the mother continent, because they have the money to get involved in the resources and start to build. You understand what I'm saying? So
yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally agree. The thing is though, I've never even heard of this story. I never even heard of these stories, which is good, because then he put the ball in his own court like that. Like, if you want me to play, then there's certain things I need, and that probably happened 1 in a million times. But most of these guys, they have to give away. That's the exact thing they have to give away in order to be in such a position. They have to give away their ability, their responsibility to come back and fix the community that they came out of. It's like they almost have to abandon that when they get into those things. I know LeBron James, he built a school and everything, but you know what I'm interested in seeing changing. All of these things can be applied to this too, but the whole unit of measurement need to change. So it can't just be like I was telling these guys when I had just met them. We can't just meet each other by accident anymore on this earth, because when we meet it, it's gonna happen anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, when we just meet each other by accident, we're not doing anything with each other. We're not gathering our knowledge. We're not sharing knowledge. You know what I mean? Some of us even scared to stop and talk to each other, especially the men, because I don't know, maybe to them it's not manly or something. But when I compare how we just pass and say hi to each other most times, it looks so different to how I see the Indians and the other people get together, because I've seen this in my own eyes. These people get together, they go by a coffee shop, and they're discussing about what building they're gonna buy next, so that they can keep their family in certain levels of um, in certain financial levels so that they can have things for their children when their children want to go to university. They sit down and discuss those things with each other like every weekend. So I'm just saying, like, it's big, and that's because they have their own unit of measurement. They understand why they're here. They understand what they have to do. They understand that they can't do without each other. Um, but we especially as African people, we are being bombarded with this individualistic lifestyle. Like I could be an NBA star. I could be a comedian, and I don't need anyone. I could just be on the stage by myself with nice jewelry. Everyone knows me. I get all the notoriety I need. That's how they're having us thinking these days. But that's a good idea, though. That's a good idea. More people should do that.
You know, I'm gonna show you something. What you were just talking about, the Indians, right? Hey, Tanzania, you remember I showed that video on my channel of how those Mexicans the Hispanics was buying up this whole community.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yes.
remember. Yeah, okay, so I took my friend over there last night to that area, right? Something I didn't show on there, right? I went to a trailer park, right? And I know when you hear people talk about a trailer park, black people don't want to live in a trailer park. But if you look at today, you hear black people talking about how rent is going up, right? And we can't afford rent. We're getting evicted more than anybody, right? So I took her to this trailer park to show her something. I remember that trailer park was about to, the trailer park was just about abandoned, right? It was run down. And she like, what is this? I said, she didn't know where it was, even though it's not far from her, but you know. And I was like, you don't remember this trailer park? She was like, no. So the trailer park was run down. This is another part of the community that I didn't show. What they did was they just bought the trailer park and fixed up those trailers to give the people. They fixed the ones that could be fixed. They fixed them up. Then they bought other ones, right? So what they did was they give their people somewhere to live at like $300 a month rent. See, we gonna have to stop thinking that you're doing bad or you're just doing horrible because you live in somewhere like that. Or if you out here and you have a rent on your house, $1,300 a month, where it's two families, you know, where it's 3, 4 people in there working and paying the rent together. Like the brother just said. What's your name, my brother?
My name is. You can call me the architect.
Okay, like the architect just said, right?
Yes.
We got so individualistic trying to be like white people, but we don't understand that white people is not individualistic. Everything you see that they built, one person didn't build it. They came together as a team. And what I tell people is when you go into these places, because you spend your money with other people, have these conversations with them so you can see what's going on and how it's happening. So if you want to try and learn something from somebody, hold these conversations with them. You'll go in that Arab store and spend your money, but never ask a question. I don't go to Arabs. You'll go to an East Indian store and spend your money, but you never ask questions. You'll go to, like, it's this one little restaurant, they sell wings. I got to know them. They hire a lot of black. They used to subcontract my business, clean their windows and stuff. They were from Bangladesh. So we got to talking about, man, how they had 5 restaurants and 3 gas stations, right? But they started with that one restaurant, right? It was 5 people that came together. And what they did was they all kept their jobs. 4 people kept their jobs, right? One of them stayed there and worked. So as they were working, they were putting their money back into that business to help it grow. So it went from one Macklin Wings, then to Austell Wings, then to Mableton Wings, then to a Chevron, because they continued to work and they had a plan and they put their money together, right? I understand if we on social media, there's been a lot of scamming by black people, right? But we have to get into real life sometimes. Not saying social media is not, but we have to step outside of the social media box. So when we talk about coming together and doing something, the brothers Polites, the Tariq Nasheeds, and people like that is not the first thing come to your mind. I think we have become mentally lazy. We can do anything that anybody else have done, but we have become mentally lazy, looking for their dream, hoping for some reparations, when in all honesty, we are our reparations. And on that note, I thank y'all for letting me speak. I'm gonna listen offline.
That's good. That's good, brother, man. Thank you so much, man. That input was great. I've never heard of the story of what you told just now. So that would be a good practice for a lot of these other NBA stars and those people, you know, not putting their value into what how big their houses are and how much women they have and those things, but into back into the community and then eventually back into Africa. Because we don't just want it to be in the community being built, right? We need a strong base. Africa is a strong base. So you guys, that's great, brother. Thank you, man.
Well said, Brother Bakari, and thank you for joining and for your words of wisdom. It's true, you know, we have to learn how to work together. We have to learn how to, and especially what he said about, you know, the players. For me, I don't, whatever honest living, you know, you make, you know, that's admirable. There's so many people who would rather take shortcuts or, you know, not do anything or just, you know, take money from people. So for me, if you do an honest job, that is remarkable and honorable in itself. So, you know, that's the main thing. So even if you play basketball, even if it's dribbling, that's a talent and a skill that we don't all have. So I respect that, you know, whatever skill that you have. The main thing is this, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a janitor, whether you're an engineer or whatever you are, you're supposed to take those skills and bring it back. That's all. You know, whatever it is that God has given you talent in, you're supposed to bring it back to the community, to the children, to somebody. You're supposed to give it to somebody, pass it on. So with that, let's welcome BJ. Welcome, Karibu. Karibu, BJ.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I love what Bakari said. It's so important. But
Yes.
but the other missing piece in that is a lot of times these people with all these resources, you have to look at where is their money being controlled. Are they in control of the money, or is someone else in control of their money? You know, a lot of times we're not. When we have resources, we're not in control of those resources. If we're not in control of those resources, how are we going to go back to the community and do things? And if we have those resources and we have access to it, we have to make sure that we are building within our communities. Because a lot of times we have a mindset of, okay, I have to go here, I have to do this. You know, I don't have access to those things, so I can't do those things. I can't, you know, fund a startup project for the people in my community because I don't have control of the resources I have, or you know, I can only do things in this community. If we keep that mindset, we will never build. If we keep thinking it's better on the other side, I would never build. Because again, we have to figure out how to get in front of those barriers, because they're going to be barriers that's going to hold us back. And we have to find or build things or find alternate means in order to, like you said, how they went in and bought those, you know, that area in the where the trailer parks were. We have to figure out ways to, you know, okay, if there's a barrier where we can't get the trailer park, well, maybe we can buy up some multi-family units or two family units and put people there, you know, because again, we used to do that in the past. We used to do that in the past. I don't know why we're not doing it now. Well, we had multiple family units and we put, you know, more than one family in it, and maybe buy another unit and put more than one family in that, and so on, and like buying the block back. Because now these rents are so exorbitant, and I know they put barriers even within that. Okay, you have a multiple family unit. Okay, you have to follow these certain guidelines. Oh, you have to make sure everything is put up to code. Oh, you have to make sure there's no, and you have to get these inspected. And so these are just little ways of putting more shackles on you. You're getting things. Yes, these things need to be done. Yes, there shouldn't be slum landlord. But if you're starting out small, they can be barriers to keep you, you know, to slow you down.
Thank you, BJ. Yeah, absolutely. We have to start thinking of, I think Hewan was saying earlier about thinking outside the box and being able to be uncomfortable for some time, being able to give up something for the sake of something else bigger in the future, because sometimes people don't want to be, inconvenienced at this time. Oh, you don't want to live with people and so on, or you don't want to give up something that you've worked so hard for. And yet, these things are temporary. If you have that vision, that's why the vision is always so important. If you're working towards something, if you have a goal in mind, you won't mind, giving up a bit now so you can get more later. But if you're simply just thinking of now, then that's all you can think of. You're not planning, you're not doing anything, you're just hoping that things will take care of themselves. And unfortunately for us, we have lost sight of the past, and that's why some of us, it's hard to for us to move in the to the future. That's why it's always important. That's why the history and these things are important to some extent, that you don't get lost in it, but it gives you a direction, it gives you motivation, it gives you, a starting point to, and even a destination point. History is both an ideal and a lesson. You learn the lessons, the mistakes that were made, but at the same time it gives you a grounding of where you're supposed to go. It gives you that ideal even when reality is not so great, because when we look at who we are, when we see that we lived, in relative peace with each other, we didn't have prisons, we didn't have poverty, we didn't have, these societal ills that we have right now. What did we do right that we can get back to, and what can we use right now to prepare for the future? We can't go back in the past, but what can we use right now in the present to mold and reimagine our future? So those things go together. People who don't, care about the past, they usually also don't care about the future. People like, oh, just move on, don't for, worry about those things. If you don't think about those things, you'll end up repeating them. Those things are not just, cliches just for the sake of it. They're actually quite true. If you don't learn from the past, you'll end up repeating it. And if you don't care about it either, you'll end up repeating it as well. So we have to be, we have to, contend with our past. We have to be at peace with our past, and then we'll be prepared for the future. Then we'll have a destination for the future. Then we'll have a guide and a path to follow. Right now, we have the skills it takes, we have the intellect, we have the ability, we have the skills, all of that. What we're lacking is direction. People, are told, go to school, get a job, go to school, get a job, as if that's the end of life. Getting a job is just the beginning of life. That's when you figure out, now that I've gotten a job, what do I want to do with life? Not that now that I've gotten a job, now my life is done. That's the sort of limiting mentality that we give to our people. Now that I've succeeded, now that I'm a big star, now that I'm a success, how am I going to enjoy my success, instead of what am I going to do with my life now that I've achieved my dreams? It's not just enough to achieve your dreams. You're supposed to go beyond your dreams. And that's where, you find where you have these players and these successful people. And it's not just successful people. For me, I think this is a problem that goes from the bottom to the top. It's not just the people at the top. It's not just the athletes. I also look especially at the, the intellectual class, from the scientists to the, the scholars, to the all of those people. They're the ones who should be innovating. They're the ones who should be coming up with new ideas and going to the people and talking to them and passing that information and those skills that they have acquired in the universities and so on. So it's not just, let's just not just look at the athletes and so on. In fact, for them, you might say, they might not know better. They didn't get that education. They weren't exposed to a lot of things. And most of the time, they're in an environment that does not, foster that kind of behavior or that kind of being with their own people. So, it would be harder for them to go back and to do something. But people who know, they also have a responsibility. Everyone has their responsibility. It's not just the people who made it. It's also the people who made it a little further than other people. Even if it's just sharing the knowledge and the information, even if it's just mentoring a child, anybody can do that. Sometimes we just leave it up to others to do things that we ourselves can do on our own, scale.
Yeah, we have to recondition our minds to work together. I mean, here in America, it's like such an individualistic way of doing things, and you know, it's a part of the culture. But we like he stated, every other group works together. You know, every other group works together, and we work so hard to try to assimilate to the point that we're, pointing fingers at each other. No, I'm not like this person. No, and by doing that, you constantly try to build a bridge from each other. So no, I'm not like this person. No, I don't do what they do. And we don't understand when you keep saying those things, you're building a bridge away from each other. And you're constantly, trying to assimilate into something else and try to say, well, they. And the more you put that in your mind, you distance yourself from each other. Instead of saying, how can we do this different? How can we resolve these problems? How can we not become all of that and change? Because that's what everyone else is doing, and it's not easy, of course, but by doing that and putting the us into it, we bond towards one another. We will find solutions within each other. We will look at different ways of okay, is this a way of doing it better with each other? And once we start doing that, because again, it's those shackles that we have within our own minds that we have to start breaking that. And then that way we would then find a solution. Not get so caught up in this bubble.
No, that's what I was saying. And also, I just want to make something clear. I don't have anything against people who are into sports and comedy, okay?
No, me neither. I know you didn't. I was just,
okay. No, I'm just saying, we also have to understand the patterns. If you look at every movie that comes out of Hollywood, most of them, like look at 95% of them. Black people are only successful in these movies, and these are powerful things. And these images are controlling our children. So they're powerful in a couple of ways only in these Hollywood movies. Only now they start putting a lot of stuff in front of us because they want to make us look like they was thinking about us all the time. But you see, they're either a basketball player, they're a comedian, they're a football player, they play some kind of sports, or they're a gangster.
Yeah.
We've seen that with our own eyes. So we have to be mindful of that as well, because if that's the only way our children see their fathers and their bigger brothers and their uncles successful, then they won't be thinking about what they think that we are thinking about right now. They'll just be thinking about, how do I practice the hardest so I can be the best?
And then move away and get away.
Exactly. So I'm saying, like, compared to other people, I've seen this with my own eyes as well. These people go and meet each other in places like how the Bakari was saying just now. They come and they say, okay, we are gonna put 10 of us gonna put our money together and buy that trailer house. We're gonna bring in 5 more of our brothers and sisters, let them stay here for a while, get the papers, whatever, help them out, and then they get their own job, and then they help somebody else, and then they get another one and help somebody else. A lot of Africans does this as well. From what I've heard, a lot of Ethiopians, Caribbean people, that's what they do. But we still have ourselves in certain categories. We don't have anywhere to get to know each other. We have ourselves in categories like, oh, you're from the west side of America. Okay, maybe we can do something together. You're from the east side. Oh, you're Congolese. You're from the Caribbean. No, we have to look at each other as ourselves now, and see how we ourselves cannot separate ourselves from each other, but bring ourselves together to make an even more powerful image. I'm telling you, Virgin, there's a reason why Africa is in the state that it's in. It's not by coincidence. It's because Africa is the center of the world, and when Africa rise, it will change the whole world. That's why they don't want Africa. That's why they're pressuring us over here so much.
Oh yeah.
Every black youth that get killed in America by police is one dream that's gone. One dream of some kind of new invention or something that's gone. Every single one.
Yeah. And
So
we have to stop killing each other. Because again, like Dr. Claude Addison's book talks about group economics. We have to create group economics. And it's on the high end, yes, but we also have to start on the low end. We have to find multiple streams of building our communities. Because we used to do that. It used to be there. And we know how it got destroyed, but we have to figure out how to bring it back and build it bigger and better and faster. We can't look at the end game and say, okay, we can only do it because that's how it's done. No, we have to find creative and innovative ways of doing it at the back end and slowly replicate it.
Yes. And, this is part of what we're doing as Swahili Nation is starting those conversations, having those conversations, and hopefully people go back to their homes, to their jobs, to their families, to their communities, and you do something with it. And to the children, you don't even have to start big. This is why excuses, shouldn't run past anymore, because it's not that you have to do something big. Nobody's asking to change, the world. It's just reach out and change one person's life, especially children. Children are the ones who need this the most, because and that was Kabila. Wow, good on you, architect, for knowing that, by the way. As he was saying earlier, that is that education system of seeing, simply remembering, cramming. That's what we used to call it, and it sounds as bad as it is, because it's just cramming. You're just taking information and then you're spitting it out on a piece of paper. You're not really thinking. You're not processing it. You're not giving it context. So everything just becomes this bland mash of facts and figures, and it doesn't mean anything. But if you want to teach, you should teach with an aim to apply it, to get something out of it, and to be creative, to get something productive out of that experience, the child or the teacher. So in terms of the curriculum changing, we have to start thinking of telling children that whatever you do it. The job is not the end. You go to school to get a job, but that's just the beginning. After that, then you start figuring out how you can be productive and how you can help and pass the information to other people.
Oh yeah, and each one has to teach one. I mean, we have to start building each other up and stop tearing each other down. That's one of our biggest problems. We keep saying tearing each other down, and kids see that, and so they shut down and say, "No, I don't want to be like that. Oh no, if I do this, I'm going to be persecuted. If I do this, people are going to laugh at me. If I do this, people are going to talk about me." So then they shut down. We have to keep building each other up like we did in the past. Keep telling them that nothing's impossible and give them the tools and say it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fall. But if you fall, get back up, do this, keep building on it, keep innovating, and keep trying to, another method. Don't just toss, as the saying used to be, don't toss the baby out with the bathwater. Bottom line, which means just because that didn't work, don't throw everything away. Keep the parts that works.
Yeah.
And keep building on it.
Yeah.
It's okay to stumble. It's okay to be humble. It's okay that you don't have all the pieces connected all together perfectly. If it works, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfectly uniform and in this great little box. Get it working first. Build on it. innovate it, improve it, and then bring another on, and another on, and another on, and another on.
Exactly.
And teach one and innovate it that way. That's the way we used to do it.
But remember also, guys, I just wanted to say that it's not just like for me, I think about it like this. I think about if these people were trying to keep us down during slavery times and so on, so bad, and then we see people in America especially came out of slavery and went through Jim Crow. Then came out Jim Crow, went through redlining and all these things. Don't we think that these people will be watching us to see how they can sabotage everything that we do on this earth? They're what? Because I'm gonna tell you, guys in America, something. You are the American government's magic economic carpet to keep you in a place, to keep you in a subjugated place where you can produce anything is exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Because that means that they can keep you guys there as a permanent consumer base.
Yeah.
You don't create anything. I'm not saying you don't create anything, but I'm saying in their minds, if you don't create anything, that's exactly where they want you. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't be into sports and comedy and those things. I'm saying like we have to watch who the gatekeepers are, because if the gatekeeper don't change.
Well, not only the gatekeepers, we have to know and expose the saboteurs. That's one of, we're so busy looking at the gatekeeper that we're not looking at the saboteurs within our midst, because they do more damage than the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is only going to keep you out the gate, but then you could you could find another entry. But the saboteur is going to make sure that they're exposing you and sending it back to the gatekeeper, who then send it back to the enforcers.
Exactly. That's what happened to a lot of those guys in the Black Panther and those places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even though we want to say just the black, that happens everywhere. You go to work, you go out there, you know who the saboteur is. They're everywhere. We keep looking over there. I'm not, oh no, this person is, and expose them and shut them down.
I also believe like we also have to keep in mind that we don't need everyone. Because sometimes I think that's an overwhelming feeling, thinking that we need everyone and we will never get everyone. So I believe what we should be looking for is critical mass, and then we lead with that critical mass, and then we see who follows.
Yeah, and again, we have to make sure saboteurs are exposed and shut down. They do too much damage. When you see that naysayer, shut them down. We're not listening to you. Then that's how you feel fine. Then you lock the door and lock them out.
Have you guys seen that video of that the AU ambassador or the ambassador of America to the AU or something? That's this black lady they put there now, Virgin, they put a black lady there. I'm looking at from till now. I'm looking at her, and she still have a straight face with all of the nonsense that she coming to Africa come talk. Till now, I'm looking at her. She still have her straight face.
Yeah,
this lady came to Africa and said, "You Africans," basically like separating herself from us. Say you Africans we're not telling you Africans what to do and all this nonsense. And I'm looking at that lady like she's keeping a straight face saying that nonsense. She's supposed to be a smart person.
No, she's a saboteur. She's doing what she's supposed to do.
Exactly.
That's the whole problem. If you look at it all, it's the same rhetoric. It's the same maneuvers. When you see those maneuvers coming, you shut it down. Okay, you know what? You're absolutely right. Turn your back, walk away, and say, okay, now this is what we really gonna do.
That's what
you don't have to tell your whole game plan. Like, okay, because you need to hear what they're saying, because they're giving you the clues. Okay, we see what you're up to.
Yeah.
You just let them talk. Okay. Okay.
I can't believe, like, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So it applies all over, even in the government jobs. It's the gatekeepers. She not coming there to speak for herself.
She's come to make sure that the agenda is on track.
Exactly.
And again, it's everywhere. It's not only the government. It's every system.
Yeah.
The system is designed to keep the system in place, and and again, if you look, it's the same maneuvers, it's the same functions, it's the same thing. They do it everywhere. If you start seeing it clearly, you'll start seeing where it's being replicated, and you understand. Okay, we know what they're doing. You let them do it. Okay, fine. You sit there because again, you not only do you need to know who the saboteurs are, you need to have that system in place. Okay, we need the entertainers. Entertain the saboteurs. Your job is to entertain the saboteurs and write down, because that's what they do. Write down what they're doing and then bring it back. We need reconnaissance teams. Okay, because again, while you're keeping the saboteur busy and they're on point on plate, you're over on the other. The reconnaissance team is saying that this is going on, and then you know how to then build up maneuvers to get sidetracked their agenda.
And that's why the great Julius Nyerere of Tanzania said, unity will not make us rich, but it can make it difficult for African peoples to be disregarded and humiliated. So, it's when we unite, when we take care of each other and protect each other, it makes it difficult for somebody to come in and just, humiliate us, to disregard us, to put us aside. It makes us have a strong negotiating position, like Brother Akari was talking about, that fellow from Panama. When you have your people behind you and when you have your people in mind, it gives your position strength, rather than when you're just thinking about yourself and other people not even thinking of you either. So you have to be a representative of your people, and your people have to support you as well. So
oh yeah.
So,
and again, you can't get comfortable once a battle is won. The war is ongoing.
Mm-hmm. So we have to have that unity. We have to stay together. We have to stick up. We have to know how to move around the world and how to move with each other. There are things that we can talk about. There are things we can discuss. And then sometimes we just have to say, okay, now there are things we can't say in public, and we have to just work together. And like Swahili Nation says, our mission is to defend the image and bring back the heritage of Africa, decolonize the mind. That's a very important part of it, through authentic knowledge, not just knowledge for the sake of it, and to create a bridge for oneness and a peaceful Africa.
Absolutely, and the battle is ongoing, because that's the key. Where you see in these other groups, they understand the battle is ongoing. They don't get comfortable. They know this is just step one. We have to continue. We have to keep moving. We have to keep replicating and growing.
Yes.
We sometimes, because I know the battle is hard and it's tiring and it's exhausting. That's why you need the other troops to give you relief. I mean, again, like you always see in other groups and other entities, they have okay, I'm the reinforcement team. You go take a rest. You go out and you rebuild. We energize yourself. We got this for now. And once we're ready to be relieved, you come back. And it's a system, and it's an ongoing chain. You never let that link break in that chain. You keep it moving. You rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and you reinforce it and you strengthen it. Because if you put it all on one, they're not, one team is never going to be able to continue the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You always bring in reinforcements.
Yes.
Yes, that's one good thing to remember, that revolutions, no matter what form it takes, it can't just be one, it has to be maintained.
Yeah, and the revolution is not only the battle. The revolution is all those components that interlocks within it.
Well, the revolution is really, according to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the revolution has to happen in all areas of human activity:
Yes,
health,
yes.
economics, entertainment, war, law. The war must be on all these fronts.
And I think that's where we get blindsided. We think it's only the one, the one battle. No, it's everything.
Yeah,
And every aspect, it has to have the reinforcement. And actually, it has to have the innovation. In all aspects, it has to have the builders. Everything interlocks, and we kind of make sure no chain is weakened. No chain is, just like if you keep putting that same drop of water on that rock, eventually it breaks the whole rock down into a pebble.
yes. And with that said,
So therefore, you have to make sure that water is constantly deterred away from the rock.
yes. And without a doubt, the division is much easier than unity. Yeah, it is. People complain, but yeah, it's easier to be divided. It's a long
Well,
road.
no. The thing is it's not easier. It's that those reinforcements are constantly there. It's constant.
Let me just finish the quote. It says that the long road, I wish I knew who said this. I'm not sure. But this is a long road that requires sacrifice, selflessness, humility, and determination. But I wouldn't say no one wants to work, but not everyone wants to work or suffer or work hard, because it's difficult to work hard, but it's worthwhile in the end. But
they do. They constantly are working hard. You think these other entities are not working? They're working hard at your destruction. They're working hard at your division. They're consistently making sure their reinforcements are there. They're consistently making sure every link is covered. We don't see it. We have to see that they're doing that every day. They're bringing in those. They're keeping that propaganda out. They're and they reinvent it and re-maneuver it and rename it and re-polish it. So you keep being distracted and think it's different, but it's not. It's the same thing over and over again. And they remarket it and remold it and remodel it. And it's the same thing over and over. And because we're distracted by the new pretty package, we think it's new. It's not new. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why we got to get it out of our mind. Just because it's renamed something doesn't mean it's not the same thing. Just because it comes in a pretty, because if you go to the store and see how they rebrand and remarket everything, it's the same soap, the same formula. They may tweak it a little bit, put it in another package, call it, how many times the new improved. And we think, oh, this is new, it's bad. No, it's the same thing. It's just in a new bottle. It's just in a new package. It might be in the same package. It's just new. Oh, the letters is just bolder. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand. Sometimes we don't have to redo everything. Sometimes we just have to rebrand it to remind someone, that okay, because again, when they do that, it's just a reminder. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I remember Ivory. Oh yeah, this is the new. Oh yeah, it's just constantly reminding you, because that's one thing with us. We have to constantly be reminded to keep doing, to keep moving, to keep stepping, to keep growing. Remember, remind, rebuild, renew.
There you go. Propaganda works by repetition, as does everything else. So, yeah, we have to remember, and we have to remember to not just think, but also to do. And it says, and in that mentality, when we go out today, let's just think of that sentence. I envision Africa where, or I envision myself where. We have to also start thinking of that image where we want to work towards.
Yes.
So before we close out, let me just take a moment to say thank you to to everyone who came out today. I know it's pretty early or late, however you look at it for me, but I'm so glad you joined. Thank you, the architect BJ, and I'll go ahead and I know we started a bit late, late today, whatever, but let's go ahead and say our thoughts, last thoughts, and so on before we close out, and then but not to worry, everyone. Biggie is going to be coming up. The last time we had such a long conversation that we sort of went over, our time, and we had like parallel streams going. So today I don't want to cut into his time. So everyone, remember that Biggie is coming on at 9 p.m. East African time, which is, oh man, I'm not good at the conversions, but you should have your notifications ready. So yeah, join us in a couple of hours for the diaspora talk at 9 p.m. East African time, 11 a.m. Pacific time, and I think 9 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow, Mondatezi is on at 9 p.m. Monday, Mika usually does an interview for the week. And then Tuesdays, the Swahili session with Paul. Or Wednesdays, I believe is Ebenezer. But he's been, yeah, I think he sent us a message recently. But he's been, yeah, but he used to be Wednesdays. Then Thursday, who's on Thursday? Let me see. Is it Professor Ezra or Ebenezer? Yeah, and then of course Friday is the weekly recap with Pastor Ezra and everyone else. So yeah, Swahili Nation, and also Mika is always traveling. He's also going all these different places, meeting people, talking to to people with ideas. So there's a lot of content also on Swahili Nation where Mika does a lot of information and talks and exploration. So do check those out as well. There's lots of information. And before I forget, we still have our campaign for the office, coming up. So please do go to the GoFundMe, and if you can contribute, support SNN for the new office. Yeah, so we have a GoFundMe campaign going on right now, and it would be great to to work towards getting an office for Swahili Nation, so we can have a place where we can meet and talk to the young people and just have a center, place for our people. So yeah, so BJ, close us out. No, yeah, start, and then the architect will close it out, and then we'll have our prayer, and hopefully you can join us and Biggie again in a couple of hours. So
Okay. I'm just gonna say, don't throw the baby out with the bath water. In other words, do not, just scrap all your ideas. If things slow down, keep innovating, keep renewing. So I'm just gonna say, renew, rebuild, replicate, re-innovate, and keep moving forward.
well said, BJ, the architect.
It was good speaking to you guys again. I usually come here without any thoughts prepared, so one day I'm gonna give you guys a session with all my diagrams that has been joined here. We're gonna call it futuristic. And then but it was good hearing you guys' voice again today. I got some insights on some things. I'll be working when I'm not talking to you guys, so I'll be working when you go.
Oh yes, we love hearing from you.
Yes,
Love you guys.
Thank you so much for joining, and definitely we when you're ready, just let us know, and we'll discuss all aspects of it. You will share, we'll support, all that good stuff. So we're really looking forward to having a conversation again. So
all right.
I'll
see you guys then.
Yeah, and unless the beauty join us later on with
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll be here. I think it's 4 o'clock my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I don't know how to translate. There's so many time zones; it's impossible to translate. But thank you, everyone who joined us as well in the comment section. We had a few people join us at the end. We had the Maud, the Maria was here. We had Elsa, Beauty, NT. Thank you for joining. Fatima Ahmed was here too. Really said Marie Antoinette, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining, Marie Antoinette. We had Brother Bakari was in the chat. Hiwan was here as well. Of course, VJ, VJ in the panel and in the comment section. So we appreciate you always. And the focused as well. Asante, very sana to you. Regman Music. So thank you all for joining Swahili Nation. Please support the efforts, the campaign for the new office. Please support the campaign for reimagining Africa. This is something that you can do for yourself, for your community. Think of ways that you can be more productive for yourself and for the future descendants. So with that said, we will give a prayer of thanks to the ancestors for giving us a good conversation, a good talk, and for being able to communicate and commune with our fellow Africans all around the world, to be able to teach and learn from each other and to share the wisdom and to have this wisdom apply in our lives and to give it to other people who may come after us. So I appreciate you all coming and sharing your wisdom, and appreciate you listening and contributing, and I hope to see you again soon. So asante sana kila mtu, asante the architect, and asante VJ.
Asante sana.
Haya, asante. Kwaheri and peace.
Peace and deuces.
Peace, peace, peace.